Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 11, Functional Classification of Cities, Commercial, Administrative and Pilgrimage Towns. In this unit, the functions that a city performs have been discussed. Functional analysis of cities and towns is based on the various functions which they perform according to the needs of time and place in any country. They exist to perform certain functions and provide certain services for the area around them. Consequently, each urban center, whether a metropolis or a small town, can be characterized in terms of their functionality. In other words, the activities of people of that particular area constitute the function of that urban area. It is the functional specialization which distinguishes them from the surrounding areas. Their status is generally determined by the number and nature of functions they perform. With the rapid pace of urbanization and increased opportunities of employment, the functional specialization of cities and towns have become more and more complex. Though several functions are common in most of the towns and cities, there exist marked disparities in degrees of functional specialization as determined by the factors of site and situation, economy and culture, and the stages of their development. When important cities and towns are classified according to their respective functions, it stands out clearly that these functions cannot be performed effectively by any substitute centers. Examples of these phenomena are service centers, local market centers, mining centers, shipping port cities, etc. For example, it would be more profitable to have steel industries near iron ore sources. Now let us move to the next point, functions of cities. The functions of towns have been investigated within a number of conceptual frameworks, including central place theory and the urban economic base. It might be asserted that the geographical study of urban functions is well accommodated within these two frameworks. But if this claim is accepted, then it is necessary to explain the need for functional classification of towns and cities. According to Rousseau, there are 6 urban functions: administrative function, defense function, cultural function, production function, communication function, and recreation functions. He noted that while a combination of these functions was performed by any given city, one function usually tended to overshadow the rest. Thus, he initiated the concept of functional differentiation and functional specialization. Cities serve manifold functions in the economy and culture of a society. All cities have some functions in common. All cities have some function peculiar to their sites and situations, to the people who they serve, and all cities have some functions peculiar to their development and their history. Hence, cities may be classified more effectively on the basis of their functions as a criteria than perhaps according to any other attributes. The classification procedure that is adopted should produce groups of towns about which the greatest number, most precise, and the most important standards can be made for the differentiating characteristics, and more generally to be justified on other than pedagogic grounds. Thus, any classification should be relevant to the well defined problem or group of problems. Thus, when towns and cities are classified, we not only want to be able to say something about the function or the functions typical to that group, but there should be knowledge of additional characteristic of the towns in that group. Several classifications of cities in terms of the functions that they perform have been developed within the past decade by different social scientists and geographers. For example, John C.D. Harry and Edward L. Ulleman has classified cities as: first, the central place. These areas perform comprehensive services for those areas which fall outside of the central city. The central places are often seen in the big cities and they are like the main market. There may be several services like production, distribution, and other trading works and functions. The central places are core part of any city, but in modern urban centers and in modern cities there may be many central places, a number of business centers as well as industrial and residential areas. The second type is transport cities. They perform bulk and allied services along with the transport routes, and they are supported by the areas that may be remote in their distance but close in connection because of the city's strategic location on the transport routes. These towns either produce transport equipment or serve as a main transport junction, or they are situated and connected near rail and rail links. Transport towns are situated near a chain of routes of transportation. Transport cities are also cities which are situated at the meeting point of the transport routes. Transport cities are very crucial in modern days of urban functions because the main cities provide several types of goods and services to the other parts of the country. The third one is specialized function cities. These cities perform a single service such as mining, manufacturing, education, recreation, or administrative. The specialized function towns and cities are thus located in such a way that they may perform any single and specialized function, and this may be due to their strategic location, like their closeness to the coal mines, river banks, iron ore, etc. But it should be kept in mind that all functions are likely to be present in some degrees in every city. Thus, we have seen how the functional classification is very vital for city analysis and city understanding. Functional classification of towns indicates the activities mix of urban places. In India, the census has classified 10 main urban functions. They are as follows: primary functional activities like cultivators, agricultural laborers, livestock, forestry and fishing, and mining. Industry or industrial activities, manufacturing, processing, servicing and repair and construction, and trading activities, trade and commerce. Transport activities, transport, storage, communication, Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning podcast.